Alright, so it is time for Naruto chapter. Wait, this is Fairy Tail? Oh, yes, this is Fairy Tail.
Sure about that? I would
Apparently
check it.
so.
I don't know.
This
Check it
just
again. Oh,
in.
wait.
This is Fairy Tail.
This is fairy tale. This is fairy tale. Fairy tale. Fairy tale. Oh wait, that's wrong movie.
Hmm.
Wrong genre. Wrong everything.
Yeah.
So. So.
This
Big
is
question.
what?
The big. What was it?
What chapter is this?
427, 428, something like that.
Fucking ads. Hold on. It's 428. Yeah.
And so, it's definitely. Where do you think we should begin? You know.
I only see pause for one major topic of discussion with, I guess, a bit of side discussion, and that's obviously Gray versus Natsu.
Well, yeah, that's very important.
He didn't get one shot.
Well, did you honestly think that he would do that?
I honestly did not believe so, but I was like, I had it in the back of my mind, like, if you do this, Mashima, you son of a bitch. But luckily he didn't do it, so we're good.
So, well, let's start off at the beginning with the whole fact that, you know, they clashed briefly.
Mm-hmm.
What was it, like, was it two punches? 3? I don't know, how many?
Something like that, and then the whole ice and shit
Fire.
like that.
And then Lucy goes up and just, like, slaps him up in the face to try and bring his senses back. And based on the pacing this arc so far, I almost half expected it to work. For him to be like, oh wow, thanks Lucy, I needed that. Right. But no. And then, in a surprising turn of fate, the characters we thought were one-shotted last chapter came back.
Yeah.
And we're like, nope, we punked you. So, that's a good thing, I guess?
It is a good thing.
Well, yeah, because then that means Natsu didn't one-shot them. He just hit them hard.
Yeah.
So...
Mashima was like, psych.
But it's a good psych.
Yep.
So... and we got to see... What was it the one girl's name? Mary or something? The one
Mary,
who was like...
Yeah.
Who was able to remotely cause stomach pains in Lucy's. Which, wasn't that someone similar in thing? Or had a similar power in Tartarus?
I don't remember.
Thought I remembered someone having a similar power.
Maybe. I don't know, but it was interesting. We don't know what the full extent of it is, but we do know is that it was causing major discomfort. She should get some Pepto-Bismol.
Some extra strength Pepto-Bismol. And then everyone else, and then you see the one midget guy who had the dolls using it on Happy.
Wasn't he from the GMG, Grand Match Games?
No.
No? I'm thinking of that one guy who was one of the announcers or whatever.
No. But then you had and then the other guy, the punishment guy, tied everyone else up with like anti-magic shackles.
Mm-hmm.
But despite the fact that he had anti-magic shackles on him, Natsu was able to still move, which is impressive feat because, you know, when it comes to like shonen, you know, when they have this power they have, whatever they call it, you know, Fairy Tail, you have magic, Dragon Ball Z, you have ki, and, you know, various other, you know, things. When that even, you know, once that runs out, it's almost like, you know, you can't move anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the same as, you know, your natural human energy. Which I used to think actually would be, or at least I thought would be separate. Like, okay, once you run out of that, you have only your natural human energy to run off of. But
Hmm.
I guess when you access the powers of the one, they fuse together. I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
Something like, because, but then again, it would be odd if like, oh, they used up all their magic power and then they just had their regular human energy to just run away or something, even though wouldn't do anything special.
I had that in Iron. I know in Iron I actually made the stamina, like human stamina and mana separate.
Well, yeah. So, which is usually the case in video games,
Hmm.
but in like anime and manga, it's not. They're together.
Yeah. Especially Naruto. That was a major thing.
Well, yeah, because they actually explain, because it was literally like, oh, you can't form chakra, you can't do a jutsu unless you combine your chakra of the mind and chakra of the body.
Hmm.
Whereas some of the other ones, like for instance, spiritual pressure and Ryatsu is more like a mental thing
Yeah.
almost. Same thing with like spirit energy from Yu Yu Hakusho. It
Hmm.
felt more like it's more like a soul type thing. It doesn't feel like it, like, because remember, like especially in the a lot of times in the beginning of these shows when the main character doesn't have a lot of the energy, magic or whatever special energy, they usually, in the first couple of villains, they'll use it up very quickly and then try to use their own physical energy to try and hit them. And they're like, oh, well, unless you have incorporated with whatever the special energy is called in the series, it won't do anything.
Right.
So, but
So yeah, his physical strength alone is very impressive. That's what we're getting at.
well, because I'm assuming not only because it's also, I guess, based on what it looks like. It looks like that not only do they cancel out magic, but they also seem like they're supposed to be like very heavy. So that way that even if they are physically strong without magic, that they will still be kept down.
Hmm.
So I guess that's where the added surprise is.
Yeah.
So we also got to find out who the spy was. It was Levy,
Yeah.
which I wasn't expecting at all. No
No.
one was. So that means and with the fact that the one shots weren't one shots, that means we have all 8 members of Avatar to take down
Yeah.
with only Lucy, Natsu, um, Gajil, and Levy. And then I'm assuming, depending on whether or not she fights her and her and then maybe Lucy's Celestial Spirits, depending on if they take on a separate opponent from Lucy or
Right.
not. Because it seems like she has to summon them first,
Hmm.
which would seem kind of weird, but whatever. As we know, learned in the Tartarus arc, she's now able to, and with all the years worth of training, she should still be able to maintain 3 spirits at a time.
Yep.
Since she showcased that at Tartarus, so why not be able to easily maintain it, or at least for a lot longer period of time? So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the fights work out. I mean, especially the main fight that everyone's looking forward to, which is Natsu versus Gray.
Round 2.
Yeah. Now the question is, what is the result of it going to be?
Well.
Well, before you make any speculations, you got to keep in mind that what outcome the outcome is obviously will dictate what direction the story he's going to take the story.
Oh yeah.
There's different angles like will warrant the different angles will warrant of the story will warrant how the fight turns out. Like for instance, if he plans on Gray coming back to his senses, but at the end of this arc, Natsu's going to win. But if either if you say, for instance, to make another reference to Naruto, Gray decides to, or he lets Gray escape at the end, it'll be a pretty even fight with no clear winner.
Mm,
I mean, I think it's
I don't see it happening.
What?
I don't see Natsu losing.
Well, I didn't say he was ever going to lose. I said there's two options it goes. Either way, it's going to be a close fight. But with Natsu's if Gray Plan is going to return to his senses by the end of this arc, Natsu will be superior to Gray for the majority of the fight, and then be even more superior at like the end of the fight, and then be like, well, I wasn't using my full power, whereas Gray was using most of his full power.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they want Gray to get away, Gray's going to be even with Natsu the whole fight, and then Gray will escape, and then Natsu's like, well, I should have used my full power. Because at this point, Natsu should, even with Gray's power up, should easily outclass him.
Well, I don't know. Wonder how long he's been training.
What, Gray?
Yeah.
Well, remember, we don't know if he continued training after the 6 months after he left Juvia, so...
We don't know. That's exactly my point.
But then again, But then there's that whole thing about how, it seemed like Gray surpassed Natsu in the Tartarus arc with his Devil Slayer magic power-up.
Mm-hmm.
So, in essence, Natsu already was working from behind. So, it's still too early in the time skip to really tell. So, we need to... I mean, Natsu obliterated Blue Note, which is still questionable as to really how strong Blue Note is.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is why it's going to be, and with Gray having his powers unknown, it's going to be hard to really tell how strong Natsu is in comparison when we don't know how strong Gray is.
Right.
So I'm hoping at some point we're going to face off against somebody who we know is how strong they are, and then Natsu beats them in a fight, whether it be easily or with difficulty, and it will be then that we be able to really tell how strong he is, which is usually the case in most shonen after a time skip.
Mm-hmm.
One Piece is going through that right now.
Yeah.
How strong is the protagonist after the time skip? So.
Right.
But overall, the last thing before I give my rating we have to talk about is the fact that both Levi and Godshield joined the council.
Right.
Which means that they, after Fairy Tail disbanded, they remained together. Now, that could be Mashima's way of saying, hinting that, when we actually learned what they did in the past year with the council, that maybe they actually did, start their relationship. Or just simply, they made another huge steps forward by working together in the council.
Oh, the pairing fans are loving you right now.
Well, yeah, because that's the whole thing, is that, Godshield and Levi were one of the shippings, and they were so far the only ones who remained together for the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
So
she has a new cheerleading squad too, which is funny.
Well, I mean, they had after the whole thing after she left to go on the Tenro Island arc, she hasn't her previous fan club has been waning, have become basically, as Levy has become more and more of a main Fairy Tail member character, her two, Jet and Joy have become less and less important.
Hmm.
So I guess he realized that the whole thing about what was it? What was their team name? Shadow Gear, I think their name what team name was.
Yep.
It I guess as the story went on, he realized that Levy was much more popular, especially when the whole Gaggia Levy pairing became, and he started exploring that more. It just seemed inevitable that the other two would lose out, and they weren't that important.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just like a lot of this is again, it's one of those things that just seem to happen a lot with shonen in
Yeah.
general. Is the fact that characters that were strong, that were important and strong in the beginning, aren't that important and aren't that strong later on in the series. They might get stronger in relevance to themselves and other people who are similarly in strength, but the grand scheme of things, they're not that strong and not that important.
Right.
So, but overall, I like this chapter because it gave us a taste, even however small it was, a taste of Natsu versus Gray, and it at least redeemed. Was able to redeem himself and undo the one shots in a way, basically, by
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, they weren't actually taken out; they were just biding their time and waiting to strike." Which, if you really wanted to nitpick, you could say is, "Oh, was a cop out." Like, oh, everyone hated on the fact that he, had Natsu one shot them, so he decided in the next chapter, oh, let's bring them back. And say, oh, they were just biding their time and waiting for a sneak attack.
Yeah. I mean, it's too difficult to say whether or not he planned it, but
Well, yeah, that's why I said if you really wanted to nitpick.
yeah.
So, but yeah, overall it was a good chapter. We got some decent progression and, some decent setup, and it looks like the main confrontations of the arc will happen and start in the next chapter.
Yeah.
Because it at least seems like Gajiel's group's gonna invade in the next chapter, which I thought they would have already entered the compound by now.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but
I would say not bad.
mhm. But we can only. But now I don't know if don't know if this was on all the sites, but in the Manga Panda, it said that next week it's supposed to be a double chapter,
Oof.
which can only mean one thing: it's going to be good.
Um, or it
Or the,
means, or it's a double issue, which means one
no,
chapter over 2 weeks.
I believe it said to a double chapter.
Okay.
That's what I believe.
Okay. Well, I'll have to see, I guess.